Hey everyone, welcome to another $1,000 strap search. I've got my $1,000 in singles here and I'm about to show you what I found. But before I do, let's talk about this week's tip. I get this question quite a bit actually, which is how do I keep track of what I bought and what I have and how much I paid for everything? It's a great question. I am very old school, but when you see my method, you'll see how you can adapt it to a computer real easy. So, how old school am I? This is a notebook. I literally handwrite everything. I've got it all in a notebook. And when it came down to keeping track of stuff, this is literally the very first page that I wrote. I took the notes that I had at the time that I started this, and I put them in order by denomination. You can see you got 1,500, a couple hundreds, a couple 50s, 20s, 10s, and these were my columns. I had the FR number for the particular note, the denomination of the note, the serial number on the note. If the note was graded, I put the grade that was there, and I wrote down how much I paid for the note. So by having all of that information, just at a quick glance, now I can compare the FR number with whatever denomination it was. Then I went a little bit further. I wrote down what I paid, and I wrote down the approximate value. You can see these values are written in 2018. Especially for that first one, the $1,000 note that I have, I paid $1,600. At the time, it was worth about $1,800. We all know it's worth about $1,000 more than that now, so that's just interesting to see. And I also put a brief description. Description here was a 1934A, obviously a 34A $1,000 note. There's the serial number. But yeah, by doing this, I've got a complete rundown of everything for every different note that I collected. And then, of course, this goes down to, well, it does make it to the, there's tens and stuff like that. Just page after page of all this info like this. Now, it would be real easy to put this in a spreadsheet, and that's actually my plan. I am eventually going to sit down and do a spreadsheet with this particular thing. There's all kinds of different stuff like that. Now, early on, I included ones, that I would find in circulation or ones that were specific to certain things if I actually bought them in a shop. But as I went on, I tried to avoid doing the lesser priced notes. You can see here I paid $27 for this 50-cent. That's a 1770 Maryland $half, colonial. So yeah, that's that counts on there. I got that dirt cheap, as you can see. But yeah, doing it this way, now I know exactly what I've got. It's fairly easy for me to look up all the different things based on what I have. If I just bought a $10 bill, I can go down the denominations and spot the tens pretty quickly, and then look across and see that this is a 1953 $10 silver certificate, and I can figure out which ones I already have. Now, if I did this in a spreadsheet on a computer, I'd also be able to change the order of things with just a click of a button, so I'd recommend doing something like that. When I do put these on a computer, though, one of the other things I'm going to add is, here was the value of 2018, but this value, it's neat, but it's not functional anymore. What I would have to do is add another value, or another list where it has the current value. So that's kind of interesting. The other thing is grading. I sent a bunch of notes off for grading, and obviously that grading is going to increase the cost a little bit, so I'll have to be able to notate that somehow. But it's always good to know what you have, what you paid for it, and what the current value is. The other column that I would probably add is a sold price column if I happen to sell any. I don't sell very many of my notes, but if I did, I should put a sold column as well so I can see what kind of profit I realized on those. But that's just a quick highlight, and when I first started doing this, any of these little dots, those were notes that actually had their own video. And I gave up on that a long time ago, so there's a lot more of these that have had their own video. But anyway, that's how I keep track of my stuff. I find it really interesting to do that because, well, since I dated that, like I said, 2018, I can see how much the prices have changed. And for me, that's the system that works out. Those are the things: the FR number, the denomination, what you paid, what you think it's worth, and a brief little description just so you can look at that list and know exactly what you're talking about. All right, $1,000 in singles. Let's slide these out of the way. Let's take a look at what I found because there's some neat stuff in here this week. And you can see the sun's creeping through the curtains, so that's why you get the neat little light. All right, this was unusual to me. Somebody went through the trouble of circling the serial number, circling the series. Why would somebody do that? I was trying to figure out why they would do that. Well, the only thing I can think of is when you're circling a serial number and circling a date like that is, where's George? Because that's the information you need for Where's George. Now, there is a subcategory for Where's George where there's bills that are in circulation that are put on the Where's George site, but they aren't marked Where's George. There's a name for those too. I forget the name off the top of my head. Secret Georges or hidden Georges or whatever, something like that. So I thought this might have been one of those until I flipped it over, and it was very clear it is definitely a Where's George note. So I will be checking that one out as soon as I'm done with the video. I found some trinaries: 2s, 6s, and 7s, 3s, 6s, and 7s, 1s, 2s, and 3s, 1s, 5s, and 6s. At a glance, that looks really cool. It's not a repeater. It's not a radar. It's a trinary: 1s, 0s, and 4s. But it did come with a consecutive note. Also 1s, 0s, and 4s. It's just the next note in line. Still not a repeater, still not a trinary, but they are consecutive. Not that I think that makes it any more, but it was just cool because I knew that if it was a trinary and it was consecutive, they'd both be trinaries. Quad 1s on this one with a 5th. Quad 3s. That's a trinary too, isn't it? 3s, 5s, and 9s. Yep. Quad 5s. Quad 7s. Some stars. 2017 star. Another 2017A. You're checking to see if that has that filled star as well. I think it was only 2017 that had them, but it only takes a half a second to look. This was cool because it starts with a couple zeros, so that's got a chance of being rare. 2017A. Another 2017A. 2013B. One of the notes that has a chance to be a duplicate. Too bad this one's ripped up. That's a shame. Another 2013B. 2013E, starting with a couple zeros. Maybe that's something. 2013H. 2009, kind of rough condition, but 2009, that's a fairly older star note. And check this one out. A 1999 star note. That's pretty cool. I found a 2003A series. I don't usually pull these, but this one was in pretty good condition. It's not in the greatest of shape, as you can see with the sunlight hitting it there, but it is an H, so I don't see a lot of those, so I figured I'd pull it just to see. Then I get to the older notes: 1999. Another 1999 here. This one's pretty rough. Probably not a keeper. 1999. 1995. Another 1995. This one's really rough. But this is a 1995, and this also answers a question a lot of people had. It has to do with the serial number and the letter, which this particular one ends in Y. People will ask me, do you collect W's? And I'm like, are you referring to the coin? They said, no, notes that have W, because I don't see any W's. Or some people collect X's. The letter to collect, if you're going to collect any, are Y notes, because you had to go back to 1995. 1995, the B notes, the New York notes like this, they went all the way to Y, and I believe the San Francisco notes, the L notes, also went all the way to Y. You don't find notes that go that far back, or go that long to get to Y. So whenever I see a Y note, I kind of like to point it out because you just don't get a chance to see too many of them at all. This one is beat, but not only is it a 1995, it's a Y, so I'm going to keep this one. And let's see, 1995 here, an I note. I notes aren't really rare. You don't see as many of them. But when they make 2 billion of one note and only 700 million of another note, this is less likely to be found, but that's still less likely to be rare with that amount printed. Another 1995, 1993, don't see very many of those at all. A 1988, and the oldest note in the group, this one is a 1977A. And it's quads, by the way. Or not quads. Yeah, it's quads. Quad 8s to end the note. So that's what I found this week. What did I bring out? Well, this week, I lost it. Where is it? There it is. I brought out another one of my MPCs, military payment certificates. This one I've just picked up. You can see the series is 481. What that implies is the first two digits, the 48, that's right over here. The 48 is the year, so this was from 1948, and the 1 would be the series for that year, which of course would be Series 1. So Series 481, this particular one is a 10-cent denomination. And no, she is not holding a bowling ball. It's too big for a bowling ball unless she's about 3 feet tall. What is she holding? I don't know, but I can promise you it's not a bowling ball. It says right here, 10 cents for use only in the United States military establishments by United States authorized personnel in accordance with applicable rules and regulations. And the back has this bright, is that purple or pink? You guys tell me. Really bright color, military payment certificate for use only in the United States military establishments by United States authorized personnel in accordance with applicable rules and regulations. Very cool notes. This is the same imagery you find. I recognize that from the back of the $1 bill and the back of a 50-cent piece, if I recall. So that is really exciting. Now, military payment certificates, these were only used on military bases by military personnel. Basically, it's the second incarnation of emergency currency. You guys are familiar with the Hawaii and the North Africa notes. This is what they pretty much all changed to. Now, if you don't spend a lot of money on your collections, a lot of people are very hesitant about spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on notes. Collecting the military payment certificates, these MPCs, is a good way to go. I've got a green sheet here, and if I was to open this up to the back of the green sheet, it's the only book I've got that actually covers military payment certificates. You can see the first series of these was 461, and if you look at those prices, even for Series 1, they're not crazy. They're, the $10 note is the most expensive, but I mean, even then you're only talking $400 for one that's in VF20. But yeah, a lot of these are obtainable, even in really nice conditions. So the one that I had is a 48, or 481 right there, and it is the 10-cent version. So I mean, you're talking $1, even an XF, it's only $2.75, according to Green Sheet. And you have to remember, Green Sheet, this is the equivalent of Gray Sheet, so essentially the wholesale price guide for different things. So, a 1948 MPC, the 10-cent denomination, that's what I've got for you guys this week. Once again, MPCs, for the most part, are pretty affordable until you get to the higher denominations. But it's a great way to get your feet wet into collecting paper money without having to fork out potentially thousands of dollars. All right, guys, if you learned anything new this week, go ahead and hit that like button. If you like what you see and you want to see more, please subscribe. I love reading all your comments. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again next week.